So since we're discussing, so we're taking the tall building prophecy as a test case. As Madan mentioned, what does tall mean? It could mean anything. For an Arab, a four-story building is tall. Uh, as far as imagining that people would build tall buildings, if Muslims think that this is so unimaginable that someone would even think about it, it's that would show a lack of understanding of human psychology and human history and archaeology. If we see, if there is one constant among all the civilizations, we see an obsession of human beings with architecture, with building large structures as large as they can. I think this is to be common in every civilization. So they have built structures as large as they could, because building structures were sort of their memoirs, was their way of living through sending something into the future, because stone was considered something long living. They could see that they themselves are mortal, but stone or something made up of stone appeared quite immortal to them. So they would say that, so they used those structures as their memoirs, their way of sending themselves into the future. So just saying that building tall structures is such a human thing, that it is found out, or it is found in every human civilization, even those who have vanished. So
Right. I
even if
mean,
it,
you go ahead.
yes, sir.
Sorry, finish it.
No, you can, if you want to raise a point, you
No,
can.
no, I'm just attesting to your point that
Mm.
basically you can see that with the Egyptians. If you came
Right,
to Indian civilizations, the Chinese built
right,
the Wall of China, the longest. When you talk about the tallest structure, why don't you talk about the longest structure or the biggest, the pyramids
right,
and all those things, right? I mean,
right,
what just differentiates that tallest building? Or why
right.
only tallest building, right? That's
The
the
other,
question.
yeah,
You could take any other other attribute and
think
say
about it this way.
this should be yeah.
Yeah, think about it this way. You can imagine if Muhammad said anything else in that way, in that place, he could have still been right. And this is what makes it quite probable
Vague,
that
yeah.
it
Yeah,
can, yeah,
vague and probable, right.
probable that it'll just come along, come out to be true through hit and miss, chance events,
Right,
law of
right,
large numbers, the millions of
Right.
people trying to find
right,
fit together. Think about it this way: if he said there will be tall, uh, well, not tall buildings, there will be white buildings, he would have still been correct. There would have been blue buildings, he would have still been correct. There would have been
right,
short buildings, he would have still been correct. There'll be tall carriageways, he'll still be correct. There'll be tall people, still be correct. There will be people who wear red hats, it'll be still be correct. It'll
It's
be,
yeah, it's so yeah.
now imagine if you said people with red hats will make buildings in our Arabia. That will still be correct because you'll be able to find people with red hats.
Right,
Builders
right.
were us. People now. If you imagine, he said Bedouins and Egyptians and Jamaicans would make tall buildings in Arabia. I'm sure you can find Jamaican workers in Arabia who's helped. So when
Right,
you,
right,
right,
when
right.
you do it like that and you think about it, it's actually very, very elastic. And this is what I mean by the this is why the versatility of language. Um,
Right, right.
no longer that interesting because anybody can get things right like that. And it is no longer a very tight, very, very specific, falsifiable prophecy. A real prophecy would be like a meteor will strike the earth at this
Right,
coordinate,
right, right.
geographically at this date on this particular time. And they'll give you time coordinates, they'll give you geographical coordinates. That will be hard to do, right? That would be really hard to perform by humans, and that is really precise, and it's not susceptible to these because it's mathematical. It's not susceptible to this linguistic sort of elasticity, and
Exactly.
that would be imagine loads of those in the Quran. You had me believing in within a very 2 seconds. At least there's
I,
something
I
about
I think
you know.
I think we have beaten this tall building prophecy to pulp pretty much.
not yet. I'll give you a few. I'll show you. Not yet, because I want to show you how many different ways this has been mentioned. So how many different variants of this particular hadith are there, and all of them are sahih. So you once you go through them, you'll find, okay, so this is not clear at all. Even if you think that this particular statement that Hijab mentioned was
Right,
clear
right.
or precise enough. So I've sent you a link. Can you just go through in the private chat? Just open that link, and I think you'll be able to find 4 hadith on this particular subject, and
All
you can
right,
share this
let's
with us.
let's open this.
Yeah,
I think
Okay.
we have Saeed waving to us.
yeah.
Yes,
I always
we
see
have
his
Said.
his
Said
mentioning
bhai, how are
hand
you?
pink waving. I don't, it's
That's a pink hand that's waving. Said bhai, hello, how are
okay.
you? I hope you're doing good. And yeah, we appreciate you being a constant presence at our streams. So yeah, definitely appreciate it.
Saeed, what do you think about the prophecies that
Yeah,
hijab?
I think we'll take Said some time and talk. Said bhai
Say,
will only give you 5 minutes to present your case. Not too long. If we do
yeah.
take you in, right?
I
But
think what he'll say is say yes to Sahi prophecies, the ones that turned out to be true,
right,
and
right,
say
right.
no to the false prophecies, the one that turned out to be false.
It's going to be hard to get past that
Yeah,
barrier.
yeah,
All right, I'm bringing the hadith.
yeah,
The four
yeah.
that
And
you.
while you get that link up, just to add on what Mahadin said, the elasticity of the language also plays a role in, making the prophecy vague enough or making it a lot more likely to actually materialize. And also, what we need to understand is the only thing that needed, because what Muhammad Hijab actually tried to raise it, the mention or take out from this hadith is that Muslims are going to be wealthy enough, they're going to be economically strong enough to build tall buildings or compete in building tall buildings. The point is, I mean, there were rich Arabs at the time. It wasn't like the Muslim at the time, all of them were very weak. Even by the end of the Prophet's life, the Muslim empire had grown quite rich enough. Since we mentioned that tall, there's no clarity as to what tall means. I think for them, for all it matters, it could mean a four floor building or a 5 floor building, whatever the tallest they could imagine at the time. So it's just simply making it appear miraculous that the Prophet prophesies that Muslims are going to be economically strong enough to compete in building taller structures. I mean, it's not miraculous at all,
Yeah,
because
I mean, you have to just. Sorry, just wanted to add. I think we should move on because we still have 5 minutes of video footage left to review on. But since I'm also drawn into this, I'll just mention this one point in reality. That up until the discovery or the findings of the oil in Saudi Arabia and in the world, pretty much in the globe, pretty much these countries were really really poor. Pretty much they were the majority of the economy was dependent on the pilgrimage. Pretty much if you are to look into that, no, there were no tall buildings. If you see even if you see the images of Mecca and Medina from like say early part of 20th century and so you'll see that major Hajj and all those things, they were still done in like it was a place in shambles, pretty much. But as soon as the oil money arrived, you are talking about the tallest buildings. What happened to all those prophecies like up until like that point, right? There were like Chinese were building tallest buildings, Egyptians were building tallest buildings, Indians were building tallest buildings, right? And Europeans were doing the same, Christians and all those people. Even the Aztecs were building tallest buildings. So yeah,
And,
yeah,
I'll also say that Hamza Tzortzis endorsing this is contradicting and violating his approach to the scientific miracles of Islam, because on that he says that the Quran is multi-layered and multilinguistical, whatever he wants to say, and it changes with time. Not changes with time, sorry, but the it can mean different things to different people at different times. And he says we can never know that a particular verse is meaning that particular thing. So it does that for scientific facts. So, for example, even though it might say something like salt water doesn't mix or something or whatever, that he says we can't count that as a scientific prophecy. Reason being, science can change. Whatever knowledge that we have of salt water might not be the truth, because science can change, and therefore we can never think that's true. And furthermore, we don't know what the Quran actually means, because we don't know what it is intending to mean. Well, he drops this framework when it comes to these non-scientific prophecies, which has the same structure. It has
You're
a
right.
it has a linguistic sort of foretelling, and then he has to connect it to something into the world. But that's also subject to the problem of induction. So how does he know that this is, and he also, that is also a problem to the problem of intention. Like, we don't know what the divine author is intending to mean. In this case, it's not really the intention of divine author, it's more what Muhammad said in the hadiths. But again, that's the same thing. What if we don't actually know what Muhammad is saying here when he says tall buildings? Is he meaning the tall buildings 10 years later, 20 years later? Is he meaning the tall buildings in the 21st century, the skyscrapers? We don't know. We don't know what he's talking about. And he's not. Hamza is being inconsistent in propagating this the prophecy approach when it has the same hallmarks of the same faults that he has already raised about the scientific miracle narrative. So it doesn't make any sense.
This is a very
I
good
think,
point that you've just raised. I totally agree with that. Why would you throw away that particular approach when it comes to hadith and what it says? How do you show that this is what? How are you ready to lock yourself down with this particular meaning of the hadith when you're not ready to take a similar approach for verses in the Quran?
right. I think Mahadin seems to have dropped off. But
Mhm.
I agree to
But
that
yeah,
point. And one more fundamental problem that I was seeing here. What happened to Mahadin? Mahadin, you dropped out. Can you hear us? I think he'll join back. Is first thing, how can we reliably attribute uh, these hadiths to prophet, basically?
yeah,
I
right.
think we did speak about all these things. I think first
Right.
thing that needs to be done is to just be brought that down to, I mean, how many can you reliably? I think none of these hadith can be reliably put to a person, let alone Prophet Muhammad, put to a single person from the early part of the 7th century, before even 632, right, which is the purported time of death of Prophet Muhammad, right? And so it's really gonna be hard. I mean, there are so many problems, a series of problems. I mean, if you just multiply these probabilities one by one, you'll come to a probability that is gonna be abysmally low of these hadiths coming from someone from the early part of the seventh century. So yeah, so many problems there. I think we should move on, because otherwise, then we are gonna. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Right. So yeah, it's just going through the hadith, which actually talk about this particular.
oh yeah. Sorry. We
Yeah,
totally forgot about that.
no problem.
Let's focus on this. All right.
Yeah. So you see, if you go to read the first hadith, it mentioned. So can you remove the comment from
Yeah.
Said so that you can actually
Said
see?
Bhai's comment. Let me just.
Have you have you opened a particular hadith, or are you just have you just opened the
No,
link that I
I
sent?
just zoomed in on the ones that
Okay.
you
Okay.
gave me in the link, right?
Exactly. So now what you
There
just
are
need to do
four,
is,
right?
yeah, you see, yeah. Just keep it the top one. Yeah, it's slightly lower it. Yeah. Go down. You'll see tall buildings highlighted in every hadith.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
just
right,
stop it.
right.
So you see over here the hadith mentions when a slave woman gives birth to her mistress, not clear at all. Again, this hadith has a lot of vague um, prophecies, but Muslims often mention only one of this one prophecy within this hadith. And then you say, when you see the barefoot, naked, destitute shepherd competing in making tall buildings. Now, number one, are these the kind of people who
This is
actually
like
built?
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
are
really
these the kind
funny.
of people who actually built
Yeah,
these structures? Were this, I mean, was Arabia in such a bad condition that you would call them naked in general? I don't know. Then you would destitute shepherds. I think they'll have to prove that these buildings were built by shepherds, and if not, uh, what they're
Mm.
trying to say is that the shepherds were the forefathers of these people who built these tall buildings. First of all, the Hadith doesn't mention that. Right? Why couldn't the
right.
Prophet actually clarify it? He could say that the very next generation of such people would build not only tall buildings. You see, the Prophet seemed to have missed a very important point, that they would build the tallest building. He forgot to mention it. He just mentioned something which was quite obvious, which could be achieved, in fact, quite easily by
Yeah.
by a rich person, even in Arabia of that time. So the prophecy once again is it's quite unclear. Now, if you go to the very last hadith, I think there are
Sure.
four
I'll,
among them.
yeah, yeah, I'll go
Go to
to
the
the
very
last
last one.
one. Right.
So this is another variant of this hadith. You see, over here it's mentioned when you see the herdsmen competing in tall buildings, and then this next statement goes when you see the barefoot and naked ruling the earth. So now over here in this particular variant, that particular those characteristics of the people who are going to build tall buildings have broken down into two, and it mentioned that those people are going to rule the world, and they're going to be herdsmen who are going to compete in tall buildings. So which one is it?
Right,
Um,
right, right.
now the prophecy becomes even more vague. So there are different variants of this, particularly when we are going to go into I would like to go into we don't have to go into too much detail about the prophecy about the Mongols attacking, but once you go through those hadith, you'll find even more variety about the characteristics of the people of Muslims considered Mongols. So yeah,
So,
so this
so
was
one,
one problem.
yeah, one thing to note here, Khali,
Yeah,
and these are all coming from Sunan Nasai and Ibn Majah, right? I think none of
yeah,
them is
yeah.
from Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim.
I think there.
Within the I don't know. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
just seeing these four, and then maybe there are in those two books as well. But even within I think I might be wrong here, but even within the Sahih Sitta, right? There is a grading, right? I mean, Sahih Bukhari
yeah,
is like probably at the very top, and then you have Sahih Muslim, and then below those, right?
right, right.
Uh, but I mean, I wonder what Sahih Bukhari. Uh, yeah, I don't want to go into history of these writers, basically Hadith writers, but that's gonna be a topic we're gonna lead into a
In fact,
topic
sorry,
really way off.
this let me in fact give you one more variant of this prophecy, because that
Right,
one is
right,
even
right.
since you mentioned Bukhari and Muslim, this one is from Muslim. I'll just send
Okay,
you another.
right. Okay, let me open that.
I'm sorry we're going in so much detail, because I do want to clarify that people should actually go and look into this. So yeah, did you open it?
Yeah, I'm just opening. Right. Can you see it?
Yeah, okay. Now just see you see over here it's mentioned. Just keep it there. Keep it there.
Hmm.
Yeah, you see, when the naked barefoot would become the chief of the people, right? You see that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, just highlight it. Yeah, and then after that, then from the side, and then when the shepherd of the black, now in bracket it's camels, would exert themselves in buildings. Now, which means now in this particular verse, it mentions black camels. The shepherd of a particular kind are going to now this is quite. I might say this is a bit specific, but why don't Muslims mention this one? Since they couldn't find the forefathers of these of the builders of Burj Khalifa, they couldn't find, they couldn't establish that they were herding black camels, right? So this is a very particular hadith, which again, it makes the wording. In fact, this is a lot more precise than the other ones, but it mentioned black camels. Muslims never mentioned this particular hadith for some reason because it
Right,
wasn't
right.
fulfilled. And this is
Yes.
the and
So,
just to
and this is coming from one of the more comparatively more
yeah,
sahi of the sahi, right?
and
Basically.
and and what you have to, what Muslims have to
What is the
actually
grading of this one, by the way?
Sahih. This is Muslim.
No, it doesn't say
There's
that.
no grading.
It
No, no,
doesn't
no.
say.
Look,
It doesn't say
I'll
that.
tell
But
you
I
why.
mean,
I'll tell you why.
yeah.
It's Sahih Muslim hadith. You will not find grading of Sahih Muslim
No,
hadith.
I think yeah, maybe. So
Yeah,
so all the hadiths and Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari are considered Sahih
Sahih.
by default. By default.
Yes, yes. So
Right,
yeah,
right, right,
I just wanted to point out how vague these prophecies are in terms of how many
right,
variants
right,
they have. So yeah, we can move on to the next
right.
one.
Madin, you
You,
want to add something before we move on with the?
I think we have
We're beating
delved
this
into
till its head
yeah,
falls. Yeah,
I
no.
think yeah.
Let me just say. Let me just quickly say though, the thing that it ultimately boils down to saying is that there's going to be tall buildings. Ultimately, that's what it's saying in a
yeah,
particular
Right, right,
location. Yeah,
nothing
that
else.
yeah, with the
No,
cultural members going to do that, and that's as mundane as saying there's going to be railways, there's going to be farms, there's going to be caves, there's going to be transport systems or something.
yeah,
It's just mundane, and every society has probably said something like that to that effect.
Madin Railways is still a better prediction, or a better prophecy,
It
much
depends on
better.
where you are, though, right? If you're in the last 100 years, if a particular culture says we're going to have railways as well, you
Right,
know,
yeah, yeah,
they would be correct. And just like in
right,
the 1960s, and also in the 1960s, there were videos of people imagining that they're going to be talking through objects, or there'll be TVs that they'll talk through, which you could say is foreshadowing tablets, webcamming, streaming, you know, and so
right.
on. But they kind of knew this in the 60s through just imaginative thinking. And human beings, there's lots of evidence of humans being able to do that. So what prevents? So it's very easy, just like Kylie said before. If you know there's a culture or those of cultures who are doing these things, you can just predict it for yourself. That one day is going to be like that. And the cultures who don't get it, which are probably going to be the rare exceptions, have a prophecy unfulfilled, and the cultures who do get it will have their prophecies fulfilled. That's kind of how it kind of works. Like it's like a selection bias. What we're seeing here is that the prophecies that have been fulfilled, there's a selection bias. There's loads of random vague statements just like that throughout Muhammad's entire campaign. There's loads of stuff like that, and a very small selection of them have somehow, by a stretch of the imagination, fit through this random trial and error sort of over time linguistic trickery, and eventually they find something to fit it. That's exactly what we'd expect if it was made. If this was not a genuine prophecy, but just something that man has made up. Yeah.
all right. In fact, I mean, we just keep on adding points to it. You see, if this
Yeah.
was to be used as a criteria for Muhammad's prophethood, why would God allow different variants of this hadith to make this so unremarkable, right? Or
Yeah.
quite so problematic or seemingly very human, something that a human could achieve or something a human could say. So once again,
See,
this proves that none of this is from God.
it's like someone playing multiple cards, basically. Just to make their
Yeah,
odds,
it's called
better.
cold reading, right?
Basically,
It's like cold
it's
reading
like
or hot
cold
reading, right?
reading. Yeah, right, right.
Just
All
guessing
right,
game. It's just like guessing. Yeah, let's move on.
yeah, let's move on. Let's move on.
How could the Persian and the Roman Empire, the Muslims would he told us how the Mongols would invade. The sacking of Islam told us what kind of world we'll be living in. He said, living in an economic system, the whole thing is interest, boom and busters. Number 5, the Prophet Muhammad told us that there'd be an advent of told us due to an increased fornication. The point number 6.
All right, this is just wanted to address this prophecy for a bit. He's saying that there will be an advent of STDs, basically, right? And this is so this is like what do you call? This is so not true. STDs existed back then as well, and it is in the records book that it was. The prevalence was probably not that low at that time, because there were seafarers, and seafarers used to have syphilis, gonorrhea, and all those kind of STDs, basically, right? And from what I read in the literature, the prevalence rate was not all that low. It was probably about 10% within the population, which is from that time's perspective is pretty high, by the way.
Only
And
high
imagine
because-
you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Madin, did you say
I'm
something?
saying that's extraordinarily high, because nowadays the STD rate is under 1%. A lot of
Right,
people.
basically, and because of all these things, basically. I mean, you have what do you call vaccines you have, and then you have treatments, better treatments, pretty much. So you have you can control those things. And especially when you're saying that at that time people used to have multiple wives. See, imagine somebody who has say 9 or 11 wives, right? I'm not taking anybody's name here. I'm just saying, just giving an example here, right? Imagine that person, whoever that may be. There were rulers within the Umayyad caliphate, and within the Abbasid caliphate. There were rulers who had 26 wives at some point, right? I think Yazid had 26 wives. Abdul Malik had probably 11 wives or something like that, 9 or 11 wives or something like that. Now imagine what are your chances of contracting an STD when you have 11 wives? You're probably, you're going from one to the other day after day. Maybe you have divided days for each one of your wife, or come whatever, right? Your chances of contracting an STD are exponentially higher at that point, right? And now this guy is talking about this problem, that this was predicted, right? And it assumes that those people didn't know about it, right? I mean, it was prevalent. I would say they probably just didn't realize that it was. I'm not
No.
quite sure what the prediction was here, basically.
And let me, in fact, further clarify. I have also sent another link for Hadith and Bukhari, if you can open that up. Meanwhile, the thing is that Muslims often mention that just before the Prophet's, just before Islam came, the Arabs were in a very bad state. People call it the period of Jahaliya, right? The period of ignorance.
Right.
Now, during that time, what was going on? Let me show you by a hadith. So let's see what sort of fornication or what sort of things were actually happening at the time. And if that was the kind of thing that were going on in Arabia, then this is not a prophecy. It's just an observation, which he said will continue in the future as well. So this is a hadith. And if you go into this, now you see, if you read it from such a marriage was called, now another type of marriage was that a group of less than 10 men. So basically this hadith is talking about Aisha mentioning the different kinds of marriages that used to happen. Now you would call it a marriage, but let's see the kind of marriages that Aisha is talking about. So one type of marriage that was going on was, if you read it right from the middle, if you read it, such marriage was called as al-istibda. And then another type of marriage was that a group of less than 10 men would assemble and enter upon a woman, and all of them would have relation with her. If she became pregnant and delivered a child, some day had passed her delivery, she would send for all of them, and none of them would refuse to come. And when they all gathered before her, and then she would choose the father, whoever she wishes for the father to be. So what I'm telling you is just one incident that I could recall right now, the kind of things that were going on in Arabia at the time. So just from that you could guess the situation that was happening in Arabia. Now, Arabia being apparently, not being very open in terms of, this is just a hunch that I have in terms of the culture or the kinds of sexual freedom. I don't think that was going on that much. It seems there was, but let's assume that this was not. This was a very conservative society, in which this was going on. What was happening in Rome under the Roman Empire or the Persian Empire? I'm not sure, and if that was if already there was a kind of environment over there which didn't look down upon sexual freedom or what you call fornication. So it seems like it was not a prophecy at all. It was just a simple
A
observation.
simple observation, right. Seems like
Observation.
so. I think I had come across this hadith earlier, right? Yes. Sorry, go ahead, Madin, please.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This is what I just wanted to raise.
Yeah. Madin, your voice is coming. I can't hear you properly. Khaili, can you hear Madin properly?
No. It's coming as if his mic is very far away from his mouth.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's clear.
Better.
Yeah, it's clear now.
No, I just changed the screen. That's probably why. I think when I change, because I'm on my phone. When I change the screen, I'm no longer on this screen. So I'm in the stream, but I won't be able to talk or hear it. Because But did you ask me something?
No. Do you want to add something to it? Shall we move on? All right, let's move on.
No, we'll move on from this. This is kind of, I think, everything that I want to say on prophecies. Prophecies are not very interesting, you see.
Yes, no, I just wanted to add to this prophecy. Like, he's given a number of prophecies, and all of them have some problems. We just randomly picked 2 or 3, probably, I think, and I think we just beat the hell out of that.
If you have a God, then why would you give these sort of weird prophecies?
Right.
These are very, very human prophecies. These are.
I think we brought down Burj Khalifa.
And you know what? And Martin, I was just about to mention, this is the best they could bring. Just imagine. This is the best they could bring.
They're standing on a really, what do you call, weak grounds, basically. Extremely weak grounds, basically.
I was reading. I haven't read the book. I would not read the entire book that Hamza also wrote. But I actually went through the prophecy section in which he mentioned, he was giving the argument from prophecies. And just after 3 or 4 prophecies, he had to choose a prophecy which he mentioned that, this isn't considered a Sahih Hadith, but still, it seems very right. So you see, just after 3 or 4, I mean, it was maybe 4th or 5th one, maybe 6th one. Just the 6th prophecy that you were looking for, you had to select a Zaif Hadith. This is the kind of, strong grounding that they have to go to Zaif Hadith. And so just wanted to clarify that particular point, that this is the strongest argument that they could present in terms of the prophecies. And let me even further, I mean, we have already brought down Burj Khalifa, but let's bring down one more hadith, and I'm not going to take more than 2-3 minutes. I'm going to mention, actually, let's discuss this Mongol attack that he was discussing, right?
Yes,
let's see the prophecy about that. And
that's a pretty vague hadith as well. I have read that and I thought of not touching it, but yes, go ahead, please.
Let's touch it. Let's touch it, and let's see what actually is this all this fuss about. Let me share with you. Hopefully, I'll be able to get on the right words. So open this up and let's go through. These aren't very big, long hadiths as well. So you'll be able to easily see how vague the descriptions are, how contradictory they are, and how this cannot possibly be a proof in terms of, considering it a prophecy. So let's go through these. Okay, so the first one mentions that the R will not be established if you fight with Khuz and Kirman. What they are, Muslims can just keep on imagining, guessing what Khuz means. Khuz meant that particular tribe. Kirman meant that particular nation that they fought. No clarity in terms of what it means. Then it says they will be of red faces, flat noses, small eyes. Their faces will be like flat shields, and their shoes will be made of hair. Now, what happens is they consider it Mongol because they have small eyes, they have red faces, they have flat noses. So this does seem like Mongols, right? But what are the two nations? Not clear. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, okay. The next one, yeah. Now this one says, now this is quite clear. It says, "The I will not be silent until you fought with the Turks." People with small eyes, red faces, and flat noses. So this mentioned that those people will be Turks. Now, are Mongols Turks? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not good with history. I'm not sure if Mongols were Turks. Their faces will look like shields coated with leather. Do you understand that description? What does that mean? How does a face look like a shield coated with leather? I don't know. Maybe this means
I
something.
think that must have been some face mask kind of a thing
I don't know. But why would you
in
call it that?
for the war.
Why wouldn't then the hadith say that their faces would be covered with shields coated with leather? It says their faces will look like it. Strange description. I'm not sure. And then you see the next line says the R will not be established till you find the people whose shoes are made of hair. And you see this is a different statement. It seems from this hadith that this is a different nation or a different group of people who will be wearing shoes made of red hair. So again, another variant. Let's go to the next one.
Right, Kelly, just one small
Yeah.
point. So what does the R will not be established until you fight with the Turks, the people with small eyes, red faces. I'm just trying to understand this statement. This is talking about the judgment day, right? Last day, right? The Akhirat, right?
Now
Not
this
Akhirat,
is
the Qiyamah,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it is.
Which
It seems
means that if that happens, then you'll end, then you jump to the Qiyamah or the last day or the judgment day, right?
you see this is a big problem with these kind of hadith because Muslims play around with this because
Yeah, I mean,
whenever
someone could claim that no, this is a requirement, and then it could be even an eternity after that until the
yeah, that's
judgment
what
day.
they say.
That could be something, but this
That's what
is
they say.
not exactly the meaning. I mean, I would say, I would argue that this is not what is meant. Somebody has asked a
Yeah,
question, right? When will the R be, right? And this is the thing, right?
right.
So the simple answer to this point is that when this happens, the R will be
Yeah.
established, basically.
If this is what happens, then it's quite strange that when this happens and a person starts saying, well, this will happen now. I'm waiting for the hour, and it doesn't happen for the next 1,000 or 1,200
1,000 years,
years.
right? Or yeah, right. It doesn't
So
happen,
it
right?
would be quite strange.
What kind of prophecy is that? Why would it be there at all? I mean, just don't mention it. Yeah. So, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So the next one.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one.
See, again, description is divided. You will find the Turks who will have small eyes, red faces, and flat noses. You see, this entire description is now associated with Turks, not
Right.
Mongols,
Right.
right? So again, and you will fight a nation who will have be wearing hairy shoes. So this is description of two different nations now, not one. Now to go to the next one.
Yeah. So basically, those vague earlier
Yeah,
hadith,
yeah,
those were still, somebody could, if somebody were to take them for Turks, they wouldn't be wrong about it,
exactly.
basically,
They won't
because
be.
this one is clarifying that. This one is pretty
Yeah,
clear that the Turks will have those kind of eyes and all those
right,
things.
right.
Yes. And uh, one thing just wanted to clarify here. You could have those kind of similar faces with even the people of the Tatar people of Uzbekistan and those
You're right.
areas.
You're right. Yeah,
They all have those kind of features that will pretty much match to these, not only just Mongols, right? So
right,
this is you're talking about a broad area which from where those people could fit this bill, pretty much this kind of a
right.
description,
Now,
pretty much.
now just imagine that since this hadith, there are so many variants of this, and there are all sort of permutations and combinations. within each of these, right? One says flat nosed and small eyes, then one says hairy shoes and small eyes. So there are different variants. Whichever one suits the Muslims, they're going to select it and say, you see, this one turned out to be true. And hence, this precise and numerous prophecy of Prophet
Right.
actually proves the truthfulness of our religion.
Yes, I think one thing that Mahadan said in our private conversations, and I really agree with his point, is that you have to have that kind of persona to be kind of more, not exactly, I'm not getting the right word, offensive in a sense, to make these kind of claims look really powerful. What
Right.
hijab has done, and this kind of may seem like ad hominem, but what may seem like his argument is like really authoritative argument, is at the core a really weak argument. But the way he has put himself over there seems like he's conveying something that no one has ever delivered, kind of these kind of
Right.
arguments. It's like a
Yeah, I mean, when you say
just
something
a
like that with such
knockout
confidence,
argument, right? Yes.
when you say something like that with such, when you lie with confidence, the other person can get confused. But maybe the confidence is actually, is actually shaking my confidence.
Right.
I've seen people say, I'm not sure. I mean, it's kind of strange, but they are gravitated by the confidence of the Quran. And I've heard one or two of them say that, when they started reading the Quran, the very first verse of the Surah Baqarah, which is Alif Lam Mim Zalikal Kitabu La Rayba Fi, this is the book, there is no doubt in it. And I've heard
Right.
people
That's
say
a
that this very verse actually made them believe that, yeah, this confidence can only come from God.
right. Right.
Okay. And they started, they started going, okay, this cannot come from anyone other than God.
Right. Right.
Okay, I've seen people quite a lot more confident, uh, boasting about their skills or lying with such confidence that you could not imagine that they are actually lying. So not sure. And I would say, I mean, the biggest point that they're missing is uh, there are a lot of false prophets, whom they consider false, who also said a lot of things with great confidence. They just have to go through that to see,
Right.
right,
Right.
the kind of confidence those false prophets actually showed in their, claims.
Yeah, there were hundreds of prophets in those times, pretty much. I mean, that era of prophets, pretty much. Yeah. Anyways, I think we should move on,
Yeah,
probably.
let's move on.
Right.
So I think we have broken down actually at least. I think he made 6 points. We have broken down 3 of them. Only 4 of them.
But I think the pattern of objections are similarly apply to those as
7.
well. I think
Exactly.
I don't think we need to
We don't need to
comment
go
on.
into further detail. We don't
Yeah.
need to go into further detail.
Right. Let's listen to him what he has to say in the end. Probably,
Yes.
yeah. I think we won't comment any more on the prophecies, pretty much, right? I think we have
He's opened
have
himself to a firing range.
we have buried the tallest building
Look at him
beneath
right
the
now.
earth,
He's like,
pretty much.
shoot me now. And we're like shooting at him with everything. You know? That's what it seems like.
Prophet ﷺ told us that women will go into the workforce. Yes, I'm not sure if any of you have heard this one. حتى تعين المرأة زوجها في التجارة. This is a prophetic hadith. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, and many people in this room, I'm only kidding, exactly where Islam is going to spread. That the earth has been projected to me, and I saw its eastern parts and western parts, and all of the ummah will take what has been projected. Why does he say east and west, not north and south? Look at the map. He told us exactly where Islam will spread. He said it will go to Sindh al-Hind. It will go to India and Pakistan. He told us it will go to Egypt. He told us it will go to Asham, Jordan, and Lebanon, and these countries. Yemen. How could somebody get this so right? There's been no figure in human history who has predicted with such frequency and unambiguity the events of the future as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these are just some examples. I could go on for 2 hours. And books have been written. Voluminous books have been written.
I think I had to call this out. voluminous books have been written on this, right? Yes. Anyone wants to comment on this, or shall we just move on?
Um, let me. What did he say again? I forgot. He talked about what did he? What was that? I don't know why my memory just failed me there. What did he
No,
say?
I think he just rambled on the same old thing.
Yeah,
Rambled
he just
on.
seemed like he was just chat. Oh, he said he predicted the areas of the geography in terms of
Yeah, the where the Ummah is gonna spread and all those things.
Yeah.
Pretty much the
Well,
Egypt, the
Muhammad
East
Ali,
India.
and West.
Muhammad Ali predicted the rounds that his opponents are going to lose in, and that's
Right.
not,
Right.
and that's genuinely something that was able to do. So first of all, the first thing is that these are things that people can do, right? And that happens a lot. I can do that. I can predict. I know law professors who can predict which cases will win in court and which cases won't, and they're generally correct. So there's something in the human ingenuity, human brain, human capability to foresee things. And if you're a good tactician or you've been informed by other tacticians, it's not beyond the human mind to guess certain things like that, but especially if it's combined with a self-fulfilling mindset, right? And so on. Now, I'm sure the actual reality between what he prophesied and what the conquests were differs a little bit, but you can predict these things. I mean, even Adolf Hitler may have predicted certain things, right? He predicted he's going to conquer these areas, and he did. So because when in fact most militants who successfully conquer, you could find something in their speech or narrative or the compendium of thoughts that suggests through sheer confidence, when they especially giving a nationalistic speech, that they purport to already have accomplished the mission. We will conquer this. We will have this, And again, this is selection bias. The conquest,
Right.
the rulers who
Right.
fail, obviously
Yes,
they
that's
don't.
the survivorship.
Ones
It's
who
a survivorship
succeed,
bias.
yeah, the ones who succeed, they get written in the history books as during the conquest. And when you look at it backwards, you'll find that their speeches they showed so much confidence that they'll do it. So clearly, there's a lot of evidence that human beings can do these things, and therefore that itself is enough to debunk this entirety of what he's talking about.
You see,
Right.
yes, Mother. I mean, you raised a very important point.
Kelly, just before
Yeah,
you go, I have made the link public. Anybody who wants to join and talk, maybe put a point, please welcome. Kelly, sorry, go ahead.
So, Mahajan has made a very important point, and this is also among the list of points that I have jotted down for against the the prophecy argument. That this could easily be considered a survivorship bias. What you're doing is, so just imagine and just understand. We just have to think about it in terms of the military success. Every person or every military general or the king who goes into a war actually goes into a war with the prophecy that he's going to win that war. And if that is what we consider a prophecy, then every general who was able to capture a large part of the earth made a lot of true prophecy then. He made a lot of true prophecies. Because nobody goes into war thinking that we're going to lose this war. Or at least they don't tell that to their soldiers, right? And even when they face defeat, what do they tell to their soldiers? This is nothing. This is just a small defeat that we have faced. We're going to get back, and we're going to come back even stronger, right? And this is what we see. We see this is what happened in this case as well. This is nothing but a survivorship bias. A lot of these prophecies, in order for them to come true, nothing else was required except for the Muslim empire to stay, to continue to exist.
Yeah,
that's all that was required. The building prophecy only for that, even for that, the only thing that had to be there was the Muslims had to still continue to exist, and it would have come true, because even if a single rich Muslim, or even if there were few rich Muslims in the world, they would make this prophecy true if they had the power. So, I mean, it's Mahadin raised a very good point that this is a selection bias, a survivorship
Yeah.
bias.
Or survivorship bias, yeah.
People should
Right.
look into this. People have to understand the survivorship bias. It's such a fascinating concept, and you're able to understand or point out a lot of incorrect um, assessments that people make based on a lot of things, a lot of data, right? This is a very important bias that people should look into. It's not just about this prophecy, this topic. People should go and look into this. This is a very important bias that we should be cognizant of.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with both of you. One thing that I just wanted to, put here is that uh, why aren't we looking at this in a way? First thing first, we need to establish that some prophecy or whatever prophecy is being talked about can be attributed to a particular person. Why can't this be certain statement copied from some other books, maybe from the books of the Romans, maybe some, where they were supposed to be, or they were supposedly talking about Alexander, right? Because he conquered pretty much towards east in India, right? Oh, sorry, eastern part to India and China, and then to west he conquered. The Romans conquered up to Egypt and all those places. I mean, it's really hard to even. These are all problems right over there. What you guys mentioned, but there are even more fundamental problems over there to begin with, pretty much, right? I mean, how do you first thing first, I mean, there have to be steps. Step number one, establish that this statement or this prophecy is coming from this person, right? And then the step number two, three, four, five start to, you have to go into next step and next step, right, in establishing the validity of this prophecy, right, which we already have talked about in probably 15, 20, 30 minutes back or so. But the very fundamental thing, I think, is to establish that it is coming from a certain person very reliably. Unless that's true, I think, all these points are probably, yes, it's just deeper. I don't know. I can't get the proper word for it. Deeper, muddied water for them, basically, right? So yeah, that's the point I wanted to make. But shall we move on then, or
I think so.
Encyclopedic, compendious, voluminous books have been written.
What
good?
the heck was that?
That's why I stopped, Madan. I think we we all tuned onto that pretty much.
What was that?
Encyclopedic.
That was just intended to
Uh,
Eminem or something,
I
or like a
I
rapper.
just want to hear it once more. It sounded like, Mozart to me.
Voluminous books have been written. Encyclopedic, compendious, voluminous books have been written.
Say it again.
Muhammad Hijab likes to vomit the vocabulary he has just memorized to to use in such debates or discussions. Nothing else.
This is all of this
Voluminous,
is just to compensate
compendious.
for the lack of strength of the arguments. That's all. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? I think after the atheists went, Aaron Fraser, because Aaron Fraser was very sophisticated and he was articulate as well, but his articulation was more academic, and he's just trying to match that sort of, I think, impressiveness. You know, that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
He's just trying to match. He's trying to create some strength in. That's why he's got to do this. He's got to look how energetic he is. Look how strong he looks.
I think
And
it's
Yeah.
after he realized that after a time it's a shouting game. The louder you
Yeah.
talk, the more compelling you look. Basically, more
Yeah.
compelling your arguments look, pretty much.
And 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 out of these voluminous and encyclopedic books, this was the best they could bring.
Yes, these five prophecies, and he could go on and on and on for hours and hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours.
Hours
Yes,
and
and then
hours of this, and I
but
think
there isn't that many prophecies, is there?
Exactly,
Yeah.
there aren't.
Yeah. So is he lying? He's just straightforwardly lying there, isn't he? Is there like an encyclopedia of prophecies from Islam? No, there isn't.
I mean, there's a lot of them which actually had already been fulfilled before the hadith were documented. That's the problem. And that's why they cannot actually mention those.
Yeah, I think we should move on.